Don in London, hello. My video's all about recovery from addiction to substance or behaviour. My substance, alcohol, my behaviour over the years, drinkaholic, workaholic, relationshipaholic, you know it, any old holic, any old ism. This video focuses on the daily readings and AA literature, and a bit about step 9, and it's the ninth month. There are 12 steps of action to take as an individual to change our attitude and behaviour on a daily basis. So it's 12 steps of learning, 12 steps of experiencing a new way of living. So each step has a place in our personal development, if you like, as a human being sober, learning how to live our emotional, physical and spiritual lives to the best that we are. Not the best we can be, because that's maybe striving to perfection a bit too far. Trying to be perfect and saying yes to things was one of the things which got me into a place of abject misery, because I was never good enough, not good enough by my standards, and imagining that I was not good enough by your standards. So all my videos are about trying to find balance, I guess, in how to get a sober life and how to live an emotional, spiritual and physically okay existence. So I go to the Fellowship of AA. AA meetings help me tremendously, and this preamble is shared at the beginning of each one. It's a statement of intent, really. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So I do 2 videos a day at the moment. One is called Just for Today, just a general one about how life is in recovery and it's okay today, and this one where I refer more to the literature of AA. So there are 12 steps, as I said, and 12 traditions, and they're available to read on this little card, the summary, which also comes with the AA statement of intent on the back, and the Serenity Prayer, which I share at the end of these videos. And I've been to a good meeting tonight, and I've also seen people who I know and haven't seen for a while, and to see them improving is always a good thing. And so, literature, I'm just trying to find it now. Yes. I bought a little AA book. It's called the Big Book. And this is a small version with small writing. Then you have a medium-sized paperback, and then you have this one, which is probably the one I use most. It's quite thick and big, so it's called the Big Blue Book. And where's my other one? Doesn't matter, I'll find it in just a tick. Yes, it's behind me. I've heard that somewhere before as well. This one, big thick blue one, big writing, so when my eyes aren't working too well I use that. But I use the Daily Reflections book to give me some sort of focus on a daily basis. And for September 10th, day before 9/11, I spoke about 9/11 in the other video, it says this: recovery by proxy, and it's all about step 9, which is about making amends to people, if it's possible, without harming them or others. And it says the promises, will always materialise if we work for them. And that comes from Alcoholics' Big Book, page 84. But depending on which version, it might not be quite there. Sometimes I think making these amends is going too far. No one should have to humble himself like that. However, it is this very humbling of myself that brings me that much closer to the sunlight of the Spirit, which for me, spiritual is living in the day and seeing reality. And if there's some sunlight or happiness, we can feel it and experience it. And if it's the other way, a bit drab, dreary, and I guess, sad, then we can experience that too, and we know the difference. That's the gift. AA is the only hope I have if I'm to continue healing and gain a life of happiness, friendship and harmony, or happiness, friendship, inclusion with people, friends, family, as we can, if we can. And harmony comes in understanding where we are in the world and having that balance and understanding what is possible and what's not. So the promises, which are shared in the big book of AA, and a little bit just before that as well, I would like just to read it out, because I was always, in my early days, wondering what these promises might be. So I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs before it, which just says, don't shove it down other people's throats either, or our own, and we find out in our own good time whether these things are true or not. And it says here, the spiritual life is not a theory, we have to live it. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. In other words, don't ram it down their throats. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time, and that's, how life is for them. Our behaviour will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a sceptic out of anyone. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter, and there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate and humble, without being servile or scraping. As God's people, as we all are, without being God's people, we stand on our feet, we don't crawl before anyone. And then the promises reads like this: if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realise that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialise if we work for them. And, the gift in that is, we do have to work at it, and that is what step 9 is about. In the Amends, it's about clearing the wreckage of the past, to an extent. Also, now we can't do harm going around trying to say sorry when, in fact, it might cause more harm. And there is this thing about, when we were behaving the way we were when we were drunk and unable to stop because we were addicted and ill, that was then, and this is now. And the difference is that we know where we are now, and we're not drinking when we're sober, so we can make the amends with a clear understanding of what is possible. It's about getting our side of the street clean. It's not about getting forgiveness. That is something that we have to work on ourselves, I feel. So the gift for me is just learning these things, and we can only do it if we take the time to work out where we've come from. And after we've worked that out, looking back and not staring is the suggestion. Living in the now and having a reasonable idea of where we're going is what we share tonight. So don't fasten ourselves down to a narrow road when in fact we need to be on the motorway of life. And on page 203 of this one, which I'll finish on, from As Bill Sees It, not necessarily quite about making amends, but it says here, gradually we begin to be able to accept the other fellow's sins as well as his virtues. In other words, we don't judge people quite so as we did before, or as harshly as we've judged ourselves. We coin the potent and meaningful expression, let us always love the best in others and never fear that their worst, because often when they're doing their worst, they're still doing their best. Finally, we begin to see that all life, including ourselves, all people, including ourselves, are to some extent emotionally developing. It says ill here, but I think developing, hopefully, as well as frequently wrong, which is true of us all. When this happens, we approach true tolerance, and we see see what real love for our fellows actually means. And for me, when I say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, I hope to learn the difference, and it's just for today.